Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. The CBO, Congressional Budget Office, is again attacking veterans benefits. They do this pretty much every year. I believe that it is one of those things in which we must be aware of because guess what? Everybody in Congress is aware of the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, and their, we'll call it suggestions, although it's more like options. They don't really say that they do suggestions. So they give options to reduce the deficit. And they are giving options on the back of veterans, which I think is not a good idea. But I also think that if we sit on our hands and pretend that this doesn't happen and pretend that it's never going to happen and think that nobody knows about this, we are wrong. And if we lose one thing, we will lose another. I think that we need to collectively reach out to our congressional members and let them know that we're well aware that the CBO has made multiple recommendations or options to reduce the deficit on the back of veterans. And we would hope that that congressional member would have no part in that, as if it weren't for veterans, we would have no elected officials, right? So anyway, let's dive into this. I'm going to throw on a special thank you here real quick to Maffer. I'm not sure, Maferr, Maffer6404. Thank you so much for the super chat, super comment thing. I really do appreciate it so very much. And with that, let's jump into it. The headline is Include VA's Disability Payments in Taxable Income. All right, and that is under a section that is Options for Reducing the Deficit 2025 through 2034. This came out in December of 2024, and let's go ahead and read it. So it says here, again, that the CBO periodically issues a compendium of policy options called Options for Reducing the Deficit, covering a broad range of issues as well as separate reports that include options for changing federal tax and spending policies in particular areas. This option appears in one of those publications. The option or options are derived from many sources and reflect a range of possibilities for each option. CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, presents an estimate of its effects on the budget but makes no recommendations. Inclusion or exclusion of any particular option does not imply an endorsement or rejection by CBO. What a job, right? I'm going to work at the Congressional Budget Office and I'm going to, hey, if you slice this or cut that or don't do that, you could save some money on the budget. Not really a recommendation though. It's just an option. Seems pretty, I don't know. I'll try to not go down that road too much. All right, so here we are. So it says here, it's a little one paragraph thing. And it says, the Department of Veterans Affairs, VA, provides disability compensation to veterans with medical conditions or injuries that occurred or worsened during active duty service. By law, VA's disability ratings, the basis for disability payments, are to be based as far as practicable on the average earnings that veterans would be expected to lose given the severity of their service-connected medical conditions or injuries. Those ratings do not depend on whether a particular veteran's conditions reduce that person's earnings. Let's read that again. So we're all pretty much aware that the whole purpose of VA compensation is because the idea of your service-connected conditions or secondary conditions are inhibiting your earning capacity. Most people just think how much I can go make today. I like to throw in not just how much you can make today, but how long can you continue to make. So it's a two-way graph, right? So you have the earning capacity today, but then you have the length of time you can actually earn. Maybe you're going to fizzle out 15 years earlier than you would have if you did not have these disabilities, right? So it's to bridge the gap, the finance gap that has been created. Now, it says here, again, those ratings do not depend on whether a particular veteran's condition or conditions reduce that person's earnings, which is kind of weird because they just said that that's what they're for. So by law, VA's disability ratings are to be based as far as practicable on the average earnings that veterans would be expected to lose given the severity of their service-connected medical conditions or injuries. Those ratings do not depend on whether a particular veteran's condition reduce that person's earnings. How do you know? And that's the whole rating schedule, what it was made for. This condition at this level of severity equals this percentage, which equals this dollar amount. I mean, they're doing the best they can for such a gigantic machine here to make that a to make that determination, right? The by law that they're supposed to be based on the average earnings that a veteran would be expected to lose. So I don't know why they threw that second line in there. Disability compensation is not means tested. That is restricted to those with income below a certain amount. Now, yes, that is true. Disability compensation is not. However, it's not supposed to be. 2, VA pension is, and it is supposed to be, because VA pension is for low and no income veterans and, oh, by the way, surviving spouses. So disability compensation is not means tested because it's not supposed to be, first of all. And number 2, there is a veteran benefit and spouse benefit out there for low and no income veterans and spouses, surviving spouses, that's called VA pension, and that is means tested. So anyway, let's move on. So disability compensation is not means tested. That is restricted to those with income below a certain amount. And payments are exempt from income tax. Payments are in the form of monthly annuities and typically continue until the beneficiary's death. This option would include VA's disability benefit payments in taxable income. So, what does that mean? That means, 1, it would be taxed on the federal side because would be a federal move. If it gets taxed on the federal side, then what happens on the state side? States would probably step up and go, well, if the federal government believes that this should be taxed, well, then we do too, right? So, what a horrible idea. And again, look, this is from the Congressional Budget Office. These things come out often, and I will say this. The chances of something like this passing today is slim. But I would rather my elected officials know that I know what the Congressional Budget Office is talking about and that I am opposed to it. And my family is opposed to it. And I am a voting constituent, if you get what I'm saying. There's plenty of groups out there that are loud. We need to be a loud group, and we need to be offended a little bit when it comes to this type of stuff, at least to show our elected officials that we do see the options being provided by the Congressional Budget Office. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.